What's going on, everybody? This is Travis Witherspoon and this is another episode of Trade with Travis. Hopefully, everybody's doing very well on this Thursday morning. Let's go ahead and go through the disclaimer. Then after that, let's see what we have for its overall pairs before the 9:30 bill actually opens. So, not a CTA, so I'm not going to tell you whether to buy or to sell. What I'm going to do is teach you education, and from that education, you can be able to make your own informed decision. Now, understand that forex trading involves risk. It involves risk of being able to make money. Also involves risk of being able to lose money. So please keep that in mind. And understand that past performance is not indicative of future results, which means that if you end up making money yesterday, it's not promised that you're going to end up making money today. So with that being said, as we go through and take a look at the charts, let's go ahead and take a look at the economic calendar. I want to say thank you for everyone that is watching this live. I do truly appreciate that. Um, as we go through and take a look at these pairs, if you have any questions or if you want to take a look at any pairs, please make sure that you end up dropping them inside of the comment section. If you would, please make sure that you end up clicking on that boost button to be able to boost up some of the likes and everything else like that from this video. Obviously, that allows me to be able to be visible to other people and also be able to help out other people in our very own way when it comes down to trading. Um, I had a couple of pairs that I ended up getting into last night, based off of the plan and everything else that we ended up talking about a little bit earlier. I will go through those. Um, as well as some other opportunities that are actually happening in the market currently right now. But we take a look at what's happening with Thursday. All of the information has already done came out for its medium news. Um, Initial jobless claims actually end up coming out. That actually end up being a little bit less than expected. We end up having um, New Zealand actually end up doing the business PMIs. They actually end up doing better than expected as well. So may end up taking a look at the New Zealand dollar to see what's going on with that. That may end up spelling good news for gold as well. As we end up taking a look at what's going on with these markets and trying to figure out how the market's going to end up faring and moving. Let's go ahead and go through the big three real quick. Not familiar with what the big three is. That's the United States dollar index, that's gold, that's oil. We end up taking a look at those because they have a lot of correlation to forex pairs, and it also has a lot of correlations when it comes down to indice pairs as well. So it allows you to be able to have a better understanding about what's happening with the market just by looking at a few charts instead of looking at all 35 or 36 charts that you end up taking a look at. From a weekly perspective on United States dollar index, what happened is that the market has broken down from this channel, fell all the way down to the 618, and we start to see that buyers start to buy it and pick it back up from that particular point. Currently, right now, the market is long-term bullish, but we look at the short-term move. The short-term move has been bearish, and overall, the market has been moving to the downside from there. You go from the stochastic is at 46%, so that means that we're basically in a no-trade area, so it's not a great area to be able to get in on the United States dollar index, which means that it's probably not going to be a great area to get in on US dollar pairs in general. But it'll give us another opportunity to be able to see what's going on with the market and kind of have a better understanding about what's happening. So let's take a look at the daily. You look at the daily, and this is always kind of weird. When you look at it on the weekly, it looked like it was outside of the chart. You look at the daily, when it comes down to the channel, it looks like it bounced at the bottom of it, and then after that, started to push back up. So even with that being said, um, there's really no great move to be able to do this. I wouldn't look at being able to buy. I wouldn't look at being able to sell at this particular point. I would just wait and kind of see what the actual move is going to be long term, and then after that, kind of play off of it. So I'm going to stay away from the United States dollar pairs at least at this particular moment. We'll kind of see what's happening with that. Take a look at oil. Oil has been falling to the downside when it came down to overall movement. Let's go to a weekly standpoint first. Take a look at it from a weekly standpoint. Where did my other stuff go? Huh. I don't think there was a broken A. I believe there wasn't a broken A, but I'm still going to end up placing this down here to take a look at it. Okay, so from a weekly perspective, this market has been bearish. It fell down into the buy zone. The market went as low as $88 a barrel before actually starting to have this little bit of a push up. Now, I will say that the market is bearish overall in my mind, which means that I think that it probably will hit the extension of $86 per barrel first before actually being able to push. But what actually ended up happening was that when it fell all the way down to that 88, I think it ended up hitting last week. Let's see, the low was 87.57. You look at If you look at the 618, when it came down to oil, it actually ended up hitting the 618. That's the reason why we see that the market started to pop up a little bit, which makes a lot of sense from a technical, from a chart standpoint, not from a technical standpoint, but from a charting standpoint. I can see why buyers would end up getting back in at this particular point. Now, remember, if you take a look at it from a summer months perspective, you have June, July, August. Um, Typically in June and July, oil prices end up going up. And then after that, it starts to dwindle down until you start getting back into the winter months because that's when people start using oil and gas and everything else like that to heat up their homes. So it doesn't surprise me that oil actually ends up having a little bit of a drop down. Typically, it happens that way all of the time when it comes down to what's happening for these summer months. Um, so at this particular point, there's no counter trend line break to be able to get in for its buying. There's no um, the D extension is so close to being able to hit the overall bottom move. There's really no great area to be able to get in for its being able to sell. So just like what's happening with the United States dollar index, I'm not going to do anything off of this move until I get more information to be able to prove to me what the direction actually is. Clearly, we can see that the direction has been to the downside, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to stay to the downside. But there's no indicator that the market is ready to be able to push up either. So it makes it kind of hard to be able to do anything when it comes down to any type of move for being able to buy at this particular point in time. So right now, I'm going to stay away from that one as well as we take a look at other pairs. So let's go ahead and get into gold. Let's see what's happening with that. Take a look at what's happening with gold. Last time I ended up talking about this, we ended up talking about how the market was in consolidation. Because the market was in consolidation, I ended up saying that I did not want to make a trade off of this pair. Remember, gold is a fear type of trade. That means that when the United States dollar index is going very weak, then that means that that is the pair to be able to get into overall. But currently, right now, there's really no move to be able to take off of this, at least for right now. So I'm going to stay away from it. But if you are in it, if you would have got in at 1685, or if you did get in somewhere close to 1685, the thought process would be to try to see if you can ride this as much as possible to 1872, which will be the midway point, because this market has hit the bottom areas a couple times. So that means that it's not going to be a necessary thing that it probably will pop up to the overall highs of that price. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to actually happen. So I'm going to kind of stay away from that one. We'll see what's happening overall when it comes down to certain other pairs at this particular point. That one's pretty quick. I'm going to stay away from that one. Let's go ahead and get into what's happening with the. Let's go ahead and get into see what's happening with the indices since the market is about to open up with those in a few minutes. We end up taking a trade on US 30 with a buy stop at 33. As you can hear my son, 33,305. Since then, the market has popped up all the way up to 33,669, and then after that has fell back down when it came down to overall movement. I have gotten into this pair twice off of this one. I got in off of it the first time. We ended up talking about that trade yesterday. Got out of it as the market started to fall back down because I didn't know how much it was going to end up falling. Last night, I actually ended up catching it when the market was showing a triangle worth of movement. I ended up looking at two separate things. I wanted to see this market break a counter trend line break. It did. And then after that, I noticed that it was going inside of a triangle. I ended up catching it when the market ended up breaking that triangle to the upside. I caught it right here at 33,340 and ended up making a little bit off of that. I ended up making about 2,300 off of that when it came down to that movement. My problem is that overnight, I typically have a trail stop running, and if the trail stop was not running the whole time, I would be up significantly more because I got kicked out at 33,437, and currently the market obviously is at 43,493 at this particular point. So, currently, right now, what I have done is I kind of limped into this because I started to see that this market was making more of a morning star type of movement right here. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to end up remaining to be the same. But remember, typically when you end up having a morning star, the next candle will end up retesting that overall movement. I placed my stop loss below the swing low of this at 33,390. I want to see how this market is going to end up reacting. If it starts to push down if you take a look at what's happening with the United States dollar index, if the United States dollar index starts getting stronger, then that means that what you're probably going to end up seeing is the Dow Jones start to get a little bit weaker. So Typically, what you want to be able to see is the United States dollar index actually gets weaker because typically, give me 1 second, please. As I was saying, if you look at this morning star, typically what happens the next candlestick after that ends up happening, and this is not a typically you'll see a morning star kind of equal up based off of the previous downside move. But if you're taking a look at this movement, you would like to see that this next candlestick will end up testing this movement, but do not break the actual low of this overall indecision candlestick right here. If that does not happen, then that means that we have a good chance of seeing this market start to push up. If it does break it to the downside, then I'm going to get rid of the pairs that I end up getting, the pairs that I end up adding on when it came down to this overall movement. Okay, I'm going to say that over again. So typically, what you end up seeing is that you end up seeing the candlestick formation. Once you end up having that candlestick formation, typically the next candle will end up retesting that overall movement. As long as it doesn't break below that low, then that means that the candlestick formation is going to end up being proven to be strong. Currently, right now, we can see that it has been playing around when it comes down to that overall movement to the downside just a little bit, and then after that, start to pop up. I've gotten in trades at 33,493, 33,491, 33,497, and 33,502. Currently, right now, the market's at 33,497. So we'll see how this market kind of reacts overall and if it's going to end up pushing up. On my $100 challenge, yeah, on my $100 challenge one, I think I'm still in on the old overall trades. Yes, I am. So for some reason, I did not move my stop loss on those. Currently, right now, I am up 130 points right now off of both of those. But typically, when you do the $100 challenge, you're not necessarily making all that much when it comes down to those. You're just trying to build up the account as much as you possibly can. So that's where we're at when it comes down to this. But couple positions for us being able to get out. If you're looking at being able to get into a position, I would say this would be one of the times to actually be able to look at being able to get into that position. May end up being some good opportunities for us being able to get in overall. Um, Especially if this market ends up breaking past 509 and start to push back up. We can see that currently right now, that is basically the edge of the high volume node, at least from the short term perspective, from an hourly perspective. If it does break up to the upside, then after that, you got a little bit of room to be able to make this movement. We can see on the 15-minute, we're starting to see that curve. Hopefully, we don't turn this into a consolidation, but there's a true counter trend line break to the upside based off of this movement. We go based off of the hour again. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more because I want to make sure that we make sure everybody understands this. The reason why we're saying this push is because that we're going inside of this channel and this area has to be fulfilled all the way up to 34 130 for that consolidation point. If it moves up there, then we have basically that free run area when the market end up falling down very quickly because of inflation the first time as the market is kind of recovering from that actual spot. So I'm hoping to see that the market continues to keep on pushing up. If it does, then obviously it'll be a good thing for everyone. There are three locations to be able to get out of this overall pair. Remember, our long-term pair is at 34,310. That is the long-term movement overall. You take a look at the overall short-term movements. I have 33,597, 33,918, and then after that 3400, or you can say 34,171 when it comes down to movement overall when it comes down to that position. So I am in a buy stop. I am still in that overall pair overall. I just want to see how this market kind of reacts a little bit earlier. If you've been in this pair, quite frankly, you'll be up since that movement has started. Let's go ahead and go into Nas. So Nas is a little bit different. We end up talking about getting in at 33,360 currently right now. The market is at 33.89. If you look at that consolidation, it got out of that consolidation box as well. This is another area where you could look at being able to place in a active trade off of this order. Um, for some reason, my system has not picked that up as of yet, um, which is weird. Let's see, but let me see if I can refresh this. Huh. Oh, okay. Expert list, properties. Oh, okay. It's not taking. Hold on. Today Thursday or Friday? I've been saying today was Thursday the whole time, and today is actually Friday. Oh, go figure. Oh, so my system is off on Fridays. Um, huh. Okay. I actually need to go ahead and place in this order real quick. Everybody, give me 1 second. Um, that's funny. I'm looking at it, and I built the system to where it doesn't trade on Fridays during the summer months because of what ended up happening. Actually, ended up happening last year. 13,297, and I totally forgot that. Let's see. Take profit is at 13,860. I'm gonna go ahead and place in that order now. Let's see, 13,600. Okay, so I have in two orders off of this one. Um, the two orders are as follows. End up placing an order 13. I got 13,297. Stop loss. I got 13. Um, I had at 210, but I'm going to place it 100 points down at 297, which will end up being right below here. Take profit will end up being at 13,860 and 13,600 respectively. There are three different take profit zones that I'll pay attention to: 13,524, 13,671, 13,782 for today, which are the resistance for today overall. Every other move we'll kind of sit back and kind of watch and kind of see how the market kind of reacts off of that. But those orders are placed. Those orders are placed in as well. Now, last one. Want to go ahead and talk about DAX. Let's go ahead and see what's happening for us this overall move. DAX has been moving. Uh, Weird will probably be the best statement, but overall, we ended up talking about this one last week as being probably the best trade that you could possibly be able to get based off of the hour and being able to see the movement. Now, I still think that it has the most explosive move that it's left. Um, it's just that other moves have basically given out more explosive movements, um, and we just haven't seen as much when it. Excuse me, seen as much when it comes down to DAX. But that entry was at 13,734 with a stop loss of 13,675 with a take profit of 13,840. Still, I am still in those trades. There's another one at 940 for the overall second take profit zone. That one has not been pushed in as of yet, or has not been fulfilled as of yet. But essentially, what we're trying to go after is, if I can be able to get the volume profile correct, that is the actual gap that we're trying to cover up when it comes down to that movement. We are in the gap for us being able to move up currently right now. Um, I got in at 679. No, I got in at 755. Currently, the market's at 13,769. We'll see if this market is going to remain to be bullish because earlier during the day, I seen that I was actually down off of this one a little bit earlier this morning uh, from a uh, from a 15-minute standpoint. Um, the market is actually coming out of the buy zone, and it's looking like it's forming a evening star, which is not necessarily a good thing for me at all. When it comes down to this position, I would rather go ahead and I'd rather see this thing pop up. But we're seeing that sellers are actually starting to take a little bit more advantage of that, and is actually starting to build a bigger consolidation spot. That bigger consolidation is, if we're being very honest, hold on, let me undo this. That consolidation zone is actually starting to prove that these are the highs right here for the wick, and it looks like we're basically getting pushed back inside of it. That kind of matches up with what ended up happening right there. Uh, for that overall zone. So I think we're going to take this one more seriously. I'm going to get out of this overall pair. I'm going to go ahead and take that win. I'll call it a day on DAX. We'll see what happens because 930 really doesn't affect what happens with DAX. It really affects what happens with the U.S. based pairs, and it looks like it's rejecting off of this movement again. So I'm going to take profit off with this one, call this one a weekend off of that. If it does break this high, then I'll look at being able to get back in. But currently, right now, I would rather go ahead and take the win. I've been actually been taking a few losses on DAX trying to find that spot. And if it proves to go back up to the upside, then I get back in. But currently, right now, I rather just go ahead and take the profit, especially if it's going to end up proving to make a move like that and be in the sell zone and not push up. Now, the one thing that I will say is this: we do have a push up. We do have a retracement, and that retracement is starting to show signs of being able to, if it does push up, it can be able to break out of this area and finally give that move that we've been looking for. My thing is with the lot size that I end up placing in, I don't know if I want to stay with that same lot size overall when it comes down to that movement. Um, Now I'm sitting up here second guessing myself. I probably should have just stayed in. But overall, we'll see how the market kind of reacts. I did go ahead and take profit on the two positions that I end up having in. Um, but like I said, it's starting to build and starting to show that this is a larger consolidation area. If it breaks out of 13,780, now we have something that we can be able to work with for this market starting to push up and kind of go from there. Because it actually ends up breaking all of the highs when it comes down to that point. Got 8 minutes before the market actually ends up showing up. I've actually done showed every pair that I was actually in at this particular point, including taking profit off of DAX uh, when it came down to those movements, and including being able to get in on NAS 100 for that movement. Today is Friday, just like with anything. You're probably going to end up seeing a little bit of slow movement, uh, or you may end up seeing a decent pop in the beginning of the day, and then after that, you may end up seeing the market kind of react a little bit slower from there. So that is the thing that I'm going to pay attention to. Um, but just like anything, I'm probably not going to be in a rush to be able to make a big move off of this pair at all. Uh, Currently at this point, especially DAX, because DAX has just been slow. There's got to be something. There's got to be something that I can be able to take a look at that's going to end up allowing me to be able to know what's going to happen with this movement. I think there was some news from Germany last Thursday where we ended up having that big pop up to the upside at first. And that's what made us get into the trade. But since then, there really hasn't been anything. So I'm going to just stay away from it, at least for right now. I'm going to place in my pending orders again. So if it does pop up above 780 and it does prove to be strong, then I will get in. But um, currently right now, I don't see anything great, at least not for right now. Let's see. If I'm gonna be that tight, I go ahead and do that. Let's say 13,738. 738. Okay. And 13,940. Okay, orders have been placed back in if the market does break above 13,782. If it breaks above 13,782, it'll go 20 points from this overall movement. That means that it'll be ready to go. I took profit early, so I'll just wait for the pending order to be placed back in. I'm not going to do it at the overall highs of where the market, if it does break these overall wicks, that it could push. The reason why I'm not doing that is because I don't have a good risk versus reward if I end up doing that. So this would be the number. Obviously, we see more blocks off when it comes down to that position. If it does break that, then now we have something to be able to play around with. Um, let's go ahead and just review real quick. 13 US 30 ended up making money off of it early this morning. Ended up making 2,300 off of it this morning. I ended up cashing out when it came down to that movement already. Currently, right now, we can see that the market is retesting this overall morning star, somewhat of a morning star movement. Um, if it starts to push and breaks down very quickly, I may end up getting out of that. I call it a win for today, and then keep on moving on. If it pushes up, then obviously we'd be happy to see this market kind of move. Uh, but market has had a few things. Market hasn't moved up as fast as it typically does, and that's kind of, I mean, that's not kind of unsuspecting because it is the middle of August instead of being like October or November where the market kind of flashes and kind of moves very quickly. So we end up going with that. Um, DAX we just talked about got a pending order at 13,782. If that does break out, we'll go from there. We are in NAS 100 when it comes down to that movement with a stop loss of 13,297 and take profit of 13,860 when it comes down to those movements as well. So that is what we're playing off of from right here. 297 and it was 13,860. Okay. So for everybody that ends up watching this a little bit later on, drop in your comments, see what you think when it comes down to this movement. Like always, plan your trade your plan. Everyone ends up having, hopefully you end up having a good weekend. Hopefully you end up having a good trading week. Market's been slow, so remember, pick and choose your opportunities. Go ahead and get into them. Make the best out of the overall movements, and then after that, just kind of roll with the punches from there. Like always, everyone, y'all end up having a good one. Take it easy.